It's time to go back to my Star Wars marathon. Today we reached my least favorite installment, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Let's see if we can find something positive to say about this movie, shall we?
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Oh boy, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought it was. In an effort to watch all the episodic Star Wars movies before Episode 9 comes out later this year, I've actually reached the point where I am going to watch probably what is my least favorite Star Wars movie, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I've decided to try and challenge myself by rewatching the movie and trying to find the good in the film. One of the biggest takeaways from the film that I had was that you could really get the sense that the Jedi have lost their way. They're full of hubris and they can see how they're being manipulated, but they can't figure out what is going on. It even goes so far as to have Mace Windu admit that they have had their ability to use the Force properly diminished and wanting to go to the Senate about it. A lot of flack has been given to this movie because of the performances throughout it, and there are some wooden performances here, but I don't think some of the performances get a lot of credit, especially in the case of Ewan McGregor. He is great in this movie. Ewan didn't get a lot to do in the Phantom Menace, honestly, acting-wise, but in this movie he really does start to shine. You really get the feeling with him and Hayden Christensen that they have a father-son relationship and that there is a bit of animosity between the two of them. You can really tell there that there's something, some chemistry forming there, honestly. I really get the feeling that if Hayden hadn't been separated so quickly from Ewan and early on in the movie, that a lot of the criticisms lobbed towards Hayden probably wouldn't be quite as severe. Yeah, there are some signs of wonky dialogue and things like that, but honestly that goes down to the chemistry he was lacking in the film with Natalie Portman's Padme character, in my opinion. Seeing him during the chase scene go into the bar and have death sticks trying to be sold to him was one of my favorite scenes throughout the entire saga. He tells the guy, you want to sell me some, you want to buy some death sticks? You do not want to buy that. You don't want to sell me death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life. That's just such a fun little moment, and I enjoy it so much. There's also a great scene on Kamino where Obi-Wan goes and confronts Jango Fett about the clone army, and there's such great tension built there, and it just leads up into this really awesome fight that really works, and I think a lot of that has to do with Ewan's performance and Tamora Morrison's performance as well. Ian McDiarmid works great in this movie as well. The thing about Ian McDiarmid in this movie is he's so subtle in his performance. He's working both sides here, and he really plays the role of a politician perfectly. He feigns false concern to Padme when she's in danger, when he's really the one orchestrating the danger. And then there's how he manipulates Jar Jar Binks into giving him emergency powers, just exactly what he wanted. It's just such a great thing to watch. There's good action sprinkled throughout this film as well. Opening first act of the movie, they have a pretty great chase throughout the Coruscant on that with Obi-Wan and Anakin. It's just really a lot of fun. There's also the aforementioned fight scene between Jango and Obi-Wan that leads into a chase throughout the galaxy that's actually really fun to watch as well. And then on Geonosis we get probably the biggest Jedi battle scene so far in this series of films. Compared to just about the entire saga, you've never seen this many Jedi in one place, having a battle like this, in live action at least. That particular scene leads to a full-scale battle as well. It leads to the clones being introduced, and we get this grand epic scale battle towards the end that really shows off the Army of the Republic in such a grand fashion, in my opinion. Then there was that moment. Anakin and Obi-Wan are both incapacitated from their battle with Count Dooku. It looks like Dooku's about to get the upper hand, and then comes slowly straggling out is Yoda. And he lights up a lightsaber. and he begins to have probably one of the most awesome battles in the history of cinema, honestly. It's really, I remember being in the theater and hearing the audience getting to a roar. I haven't seen anything like that since probably episode 8, where the audience just starts cheering because that moment is so magical, and that's the same here. I have a few reservations about seeing Yoda with a lightsaber, but some of that's calmed over time because honestly, the story being told here is kind of how the Jedi lost their way, and Yoda really kind of moves on from being a person who uses a lightsaber to being someone who's more connected with the Force in a more natural way, and that's kind of the story that's being told here. But honestly, this scene still really is kind of one of those magical moments. Another great thing about this movie is the music. John Williams needs no introduction. He's probably one of the greatest living musicians is out there. He honestly adds so much to this film series, and this particular movie, especially with the Across the Stars, which kind of goes into the pantheon of like some of the greatest music of this saga, in my opinion. There's also the sound design. Ben Burtt is a master at this, and it is just so much fun to watch. I especially loved watching that chase scene that I mentioned before, between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett, where he's shooting off seismic charges at Obi-Wan to try to get him away, and it's just going boom. It's just so awesome. It really kind of pushed my soundbar to the extreme with listening to that, and this wasn't even in Dolby Atmos, honestly. My ultimate feeling about this film is that, much like The Phantom Menace, it is just a really good story somewhere buried beneath the surface, but it's not told very well. Yeah, has some problems with dialogue. It has a large romantic plot to it that does not work because the chemistry between Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen is just not very good with this, and I think a lot of that does boil down to the fact that the actors didn't have a lot to work with, honestly, directorial wise. And honestly, the story itself is really kind of clunky. It's kind of put together in a way that kind of makes some things not really make a lot of sense, in my opinion. There are points where the movie drags that I feel like I didn't really need to ever see a Star Wars movie where Obi-Wan Kenobi goes to the library or to a 1950s style diner. It just, things like that just really don't work very well for me. But I'm not here to talk about the negatives because I could go on all day about that, and I feel like this should be a more positive, uplifting video. And honestly, I just kind of wanted to share my thoughts on some of the positives about this movie. And there is a lot of good to be had in this movie. It kind of can be fun at times, so honestly, it's worth watching if you're watching the entire thing. Anyways, guys, this was just wanted to share my thoughts on this, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give me a like and a subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.